What happened when a long-kept secret finally exploded?
I never thought my life would unravel because of one secret. A secret that sat in my family's living room for nearly 2 decades, hidden in plain sight, dressed up as tradition, love, and loyalty. But when it finally came out, when the truth clawed its way into daylight, it didn't just break us, it burned everything down. The night it happened is burned into my memory like a scar that won't fade. We were at my parents' house, gathered for what was supposed to be a simple family dinner. My mother insisted on everyone coming: me, my younger brother Daniel, my older sister Claire, even my estranged uncle who rarely showed his face. She claimed it was important we be together, but her tone had that tight edge I recognized, the one she used when she was bracing herself for something bigger. I didn't trust it. The table looked like a set piece from one of those commercials. Roast chicken, wine glasses gleaming, candles lit. But beneath it, the tension sat heavy, thick as smoke. My father barely spoke, just kept pouring himself another glass of Merlot. Daniel was fidgeting with his fork. Claire scrolled on her phone until Mom snapped at her. I remember thinking, something's about to break. And I was right. It started with a question. My uncle, half drunk already, leaned across the table and said, "So, are you ever going to tell them? Or do we keep playing house?" His voice was bitter, the kind of bitterness that comes from years of swallowing words until they turn into poison. My mother froze. Fork halfway to her mouth, her knuckles went white. My father muttered something like a warning, but it was too late. My uncle smirked, took another sip, and said louder this time, "They deserve to know who he really is." He jerked his chin toward my father. My stomach dropped. I didn't know what he meant, but I knew it was dangerous. I could feel the panic rippling through my mother, see it in the way her eyes flicked to Dad, silently begging him to shut it down. But he didn't. He just sat there, jaw clenched, staring at his plate like the roast chicken could somehow swallow the truth he refused to speak. That's when Claire, impatient as always, snapped. "What? What are you even talking about?" The silence that followed was suffocating. My mother's lips parted, closed again. My father still said nothing. And then my uncle laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Oh, for God's sake, you've all been living a lie. Do you really think this family's as perfect as your mother pretends? You think your father is who he says he is?" I swear, the air seemed to shift in that moment. Something in me knew we were standing on the edge of a cliff, and once we fell, there'd be no climbing back up. My mother slammed her glass down so hard, wine splashed across the tablecloth. She hissed, "Not tonight." But it was already too late. Daniel, wide-eyed, asked, "What does he mean?" And that was when the secret began to spill. Not from my father, not even from my mother, but from my uncle, words tumbling out like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. "He's not who you think he is. Your father? He's not just your father. He's my brother, sure, but he's also—" He stopped, glancing at Mom with venom in his eyes. "He's the reason your mother's life is built on lies." Claire put her phone down, finally. Her voice was sharp. "Stop speaking in riddles. What lies?" And that's when my mother cracked. Her voice trembled as she said, "Enough, Michael." But Michael didn't stop. He leaned forward, spit flying, as he whispered like it was some horror story meant to scar us forever. "Your father had another family, a whole other life before this one. And your mother knew. She knew the whole time." The words dropped into the silence like a grenade. I heard them echo in my skull, but my mind rejected them. Another family? Another life? That couldn't be true. I looked to Dad, desperate for him to laugh, to deny it, to tell us his brother was drunk and cruel and wrong. But he didn't. He just stared back at me. With eyes so hollow, I knew instantly it was true. The room erupted. Claire cursed, Daniel demanded answers, my mother shouted for everyone to stop. But all I could do was sit there, frozen, my world tilting under me. Because in that single moment, the foundation of everything I thought I knew cracked apart, and I had no idea just how deep the fracture went. My father's silence was worse than any confession he could have made. He didn't deny it, he didn't argue, he didn't even look ashamed. He just sat there, staring at the plate in front of him like the roast chicken could somehow swallow the truth he refused to speak.
Claire was the first to explode. Another family? What the hell does that even mean? Her voice cracked, but her eyes were blazing, almost daring him to answer. Daniel pushed his chair back, the legs screeching against the tile. Dad, say something. Tell him he's lying. But Dad didn't. His lips parted, then closed again. His face had gone pale, his hand shaking just enough that I noticed him grip his wine glass tighter, as though it might ground him. I finally found my voice. Another family, where? When? The words felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else. My uncle's laugh was bitter. You think your mother was the first? Please. He was married before, had a kid. Then he walked away like none of it ever happened. My chest tightened. My father, our father, had another child? Mom snapped. Her chair scraped as she stood over us with fury in her eyes. Stop it, Michael. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about. He jabbed a finger toward her. You were the one who told him to bury it, to pretend none of it existed. Don't you dare play innocent now. Her voice dropped to a hiss, sharp and venomous. You don't understand what we went through. And for a moment, the room stilled. Because those words, were as good as an admission. Daniel's face went red. He looked between them like he'd stumbled into some nightmare. So it's true? You had a kid before us? You just left them? Dad finally spoke. His voice was low, gravelly, as though each word had to be dragged out. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Claire shot back. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you abandoned a family and then pretended it never happened. His jaw clenched. It's complicated. That word, complicated. I wanted to scream. Complicated is what you say when you can't justify the unjustifiable. I turned to Mom. Did you know? My voice shook, but I forced the words out. Did you know the whole time? Silence. She didn't have to say it. The guilt on her face was answer enough. Claire stood abruptly, her chair toppling behind her. Unbelievable. You've been lying to us our whole lives. Daniel's hands curled into fists. Where is he? The kid. Where is he now? No one answered. My father's eyes flicked toward my mother, and the silence that followed was heavier than words. That was when the thought hit me like a punch. Whoever this kid was, he might still be out there, alive, somewhere, and we had been living our lives completely unaware. I pushed back my chair, suddenly unable to breathe in that house. I need air. I walked out into the night, the chill biting my skin, my thoughts spinning. Behind me, I could hear Claire shouting, Daniel demanding answers, my uncle fueling the fire, and my parents, my lying parents, trying to contain the chaos they had unleashed. The stars blurred above me as my stomach twisted. All those family traditions, all those we stick together speeches, all those lessons about honesty and loyalty, what were they worth now? And then, clear as glass, another thought crystallized in my mind. If there was another child out there, if my father had abandoned him, what if he decided to come back? What if he already had? I didn't sleep that night. Not a single second. I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling where glow-in-the-dark stars still clung from when I was a kid, and every sound in the house felt amplified. The pipes groaning, Daniel pacing down the hall, the creak of the stairs when Claire stormed out around midnight and didn't come back. And through it all, I replayed the moment at the table over and over. My father's silence, my uncle's words, my mother's pleading eyes. Another family, another child. By morning, I felt like I had aged years. At breakfast, the house was too quiet. Dad sat at the head of the table, coffee untouched, eyes sunken. Mom hovered, trying to act normal, offering toast, pretending like the night before hadn't happened. Daniel broke the silence. "So, when are you going to tell us everything?" His voice was calm, too calm, but his eyes burned.
Dad didn't look up. "It's not that simple." "Stop saying that!" Daniel slammed his fist against the table, making the cups rattle. "Either you tell us, or I'll find out myself." Mom flinched. "Danny, please." "No." He stood, fists shaking. "I have a right to know if I've got a brother out there. Or a sister. I'm not playing this game anymore." I swallowed hard. He was right. We deserve the truth, not scraps of it. So I asked the question none of us wanted to say aloud. What happened to them? The air went heavy. Dad finally lifted his eyes, red-shot and tired. He opened his mouth, closed it again, like he was searching for words that didn't exist. Mom filled the silence. Her voice was soft, trembling. His name was Aaron. A name. My stomach flipped. He had a name. He was real. He was from your father's first marriage, before I met him, before this family. Daniel's breath caught. And you just, what, pretended he didn't exist? Tears welled in Mom's eyes. You don't understand. Your father went through hell. That marriage was toxic, destructive, and when it ended, she hesitated, glancing at Dad. He thought it was better if Aaron stayed with his mother. A clean break. Better for who? Claire's voice cut through the doorway. She stood there, disheveled, her clothes smelling like cigarettes and anger. Because it sure as hell wasn't better for Aaron. I couldn't breathe. My father had a son out there, a boy who grew up without a dad, while we had one sitting at every recital, every birthday, every milestone. And the worst part, we hadn't even known he existed. Daniel shoved his chair back. Where is he now? No one answered. Where? His shout cracked through the air. Dad's voice came out hoarse, almost broken. I don't know. Liar? I saw it in his eyes. He knew exactly where Aaron was. Claire laughed bitterly. Unbelievable. You sit here preaching about family, about loyalty, when you left your own kid to grow up without you. Do you know what kind of damage that does? I whispered before I even realized it. Does he even know about us? The silence that followed was louder than any scream. And then, like fate itself had been listening, the doorbell rang. We all froze. The sound echoed through the hallway, sharp and insistent. Mom's face went white. Dad's cup clattered against the table, coffee spilling across his hand. Daniel glanced between them. Who is that? No one moved. The bell rang again, longer this time. My heart pounded in my chest as a single thought raced through my mind. It's him. The second chime of the doorbell seemed to stretch forever, each echo digging into my chest like a knife. Nobody moved. Not Mom, not Dad, not Daniel. Even Claire, who never feared confrontation, stood frozen in the doorway with her arms crossed, her bravado suddenly gone. Finally, I pushed back my chair. I'll get it. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. My hands were shaking so badly under the table, I tucked them into my sleeves before I stood. I walked down the hall, each step heavier than the last. The curtains by the doors shifted with a draft, and for a split second, I saw a shadow move across the glass. A man. My throat tightened. I opened the door. He stood there, taller than me, his hair dark and messy like he hadn't slept, and eyes that carried the same shade as my father's, but harder, colder. There was something unsettling in the way he looked at me, like he'd been expecting this moment for years. "Hi," he said simply, his voice low, rough. "I'm Aaron." My chest seized. The name hit me like a gunshot. Real. Not just a whispered secret, not just a ghost, flesh and blood. Behind me, I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath, my father's chair scraping violently against the tile. Then his voice, angry, panicked, "Don't let him in." But it was too late. Aaron stepped forward, one foot crossing the threshold. His gaze shifted past me into the house, and when his eyes landed on Dad, his whole body stiffened.
"You," he spat. Dad froze, but his expression wasn't surprise. It was recognition. He knew. He'd always known this day would come. Claire pushed past me, standing at my side like a shield. "So, it's true," she whispered, staring at him like she was seeing a ghost. "You're our brother." Aaron didn't take his eyes off Dad. "Half-brother," he said bitterly. "Don't dress it up prettier than it is." Daniel came rushing up, his jaw tight. "Where have you been? Why now?" Aaron's laugh was sharp, humorless. "Where have I been? While you all grew up in this perfect little house with family dinners and birthday parties, I've been surviving, alone, without the man who should have been my father." The words cut like glass. I glanced back at Dad, waiting for him to finally say something, anything. But he just stood there, trembling, his lips pressed tight. Aaron stepped fully inside now, his presence filling the hallway like a storm. His voice rose, shaking with fury. "Why did you leave me? Why did you pretend I didn't exist?" My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Claire whispered, "Oh my God." I felt myself gripping the wall, nails digging into the plaster just to keep steady. Dad finally spoke. His voice was thin, almost a whisper. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Aaron snapped. Don't you dare make excuses. I grew up watching other kids with fathers while mine was across town building a brand new family. I saw your pictures in the paper, at events, smiling with your wife and kids like I was some mistake you could erase." Daniel's face twisted in horror. "You knew about us?" Aaron's gaze flicked toward him, sharp and cold. "Of course I knew. You think it's easy to ignore the man who walked away from you when his face is plastered all over your city? I knew every one of your birthdays. I watched from the sidelines while he gave you everything I never got." Silence fell, thick and suffocating. I stared at Dad, anger boiling in my chest. "Is that true?" My voice cracked. "You knew he was out there suffering, and you just, what, pretended?" Dad's face crumpled. For the first time in my life, I saw tears well in his eyes. "I thought I was protecting him. I thought leaving would give him a better life." Aaron laughed bitterly. "Protecting me? You left me with a mother who hated you so much she made me pay for it every day. She reminded me of you every time she was drunk enough to break something across my back. That's what your protection got me." The room spun. The air turned cold. Claire stepped closer to him, her voice trembling but firm. "Aaron, you should have been with us. We didn't know. We would have wanted you here." For the first time, Aaron's hard expression softened just a fraction. He looked at her, at Daniel, at me, and then his eyes went back to Dad, colder than ever. But he made sure I wasn't. The weight of his words hung over us, pressing down like a storm ready to break. And then Aaron said something that shattered what little was left of the illusion we called family. "I didn't just come here for answers. I came here for payback." The moment he said it, "I came here for payback," the air in the house turned electric.
Every nerve in my body screamed danger, like the walls themselves were warning us to run. Mom stepped forward quickly, hands raised like she could calm the storm. "Aaron, please, you don't mean that. You're angry, I understand, but don't you dare patronize me." His voice was sharp, venom dripping from every word. He pointed at her, his hand trembling. "You knew. You stayed with him. You built this perfect little life while I was rotting. You're just as guilty." Her face went pale, lips quivering. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear, not the tight-lipped control she usually wielded like armor. Daniel tried to step between them, his voice shaking but determined. "Look, man, I get it. You've been hurt, but you can't just come in here threatening our mom." His head snapped toward him, eyes blazing. "Your mom, not mine. Don't call her that." Daniel faltered. Then his gaze swung back to Dad, growling. "But you," he said, "you're the one I came for." Dad finally moved. He straightened, shoulders stiff, but I could see the tremor in his hands. "Aaron, whatever you think will fix this, it won't. I can't undo the past." "You don't get it," Aaron spat. "This isn't about undoing. It's about making you feel a fraction of what I felt." His words sent a chill crawling down my spine.
Claire, sharp as ever, cut in. "What are you planning? What do you mean by payback?" Aaron didn't answer her. He reached into his jacket pocket and my heart stopped. For a split second, I thought he was pulling out a weapon. Mom gasped. Daniel swore under his breath. Claire tensed like she was ready to pounce. But it wasn't a gun. It was a stack of papers. Crumpled, folded, but unmistakable. Legal documents. He tossed them onto the table with a slap that echoed through the room. Custody records, court filings, all the proof of how he fought to leave me behind. He didn't want me. He made it official. My father's face crumpled like he'd been punched. He opened his mouth, closed it again, tears spilling freely now. Aaron's voice shook with rage. "Do you know what it feels like to find paperwork proving your own father erased you, that he fought for the right not to see you again?" My stomach lurched. Claire's hand covered her mouth. Daniel whispered, "Oh my God." I stared at the papers, bile rising in my throat. Cold, hard proof. It wasn't just abandonment. It was deliberate, legal, permanent. Aaron slammed his fist against the table, making the cups rattle. I lost everything. My childhood, my father, my chance at a normal life. And you? He turned his fury back to Dad. "You got a do-over. You got to pretend you weren't a monster. Well, guess what? I'm here to ruin that pretty picture you painted." Mom shook her head violently. "No, you can't." "Oh, I can." His grin was twisted, cruel. "You see, I've had a long time to plan this, and I know things that will make sure none of you ever look at him the same way again." He leaned forward, his voice dropping into a whisper that made my blood run cold. "Do they know about the money? About the things you did to keep me quiet before?" Dad's face drained of all color. Mom staggered back like she'd been struck. Claire's eyes widened. "What money?" Aaron's smile widened, gleaming satisfaction in his eyes. "Guess you don't know everything about Daddy after all." The room spun around me. My father's secret child had just detonated a bomb in our living room. But something in Aaron's words told me there was still another secret, buried deeper than abandonment. And I knew, whatever it was about to come out. Aaron's words hung in the air like smoke from a fire no one could put out. The money, the things you did to keep me quiet before. My pulse hammered in my ears. Claire's face had gone pale, her lips pressed into a thin line. Daniel's fists clenched so tightly, his knuckles looked bone white. And Mom looked like she might faint. But it was Dad who broke first. He stood, shoving his chair back, his voice shaking. "That's enough." Aaron smirked, cold and triumphant. "Oh no, We're just getting started. He tapped the papers on the table, then leaned forward. You think I came here with nothing? You think I'd walk into your house without proof? I have every receipt, every transfer, every payoff you made to shut me up, to shut her up. My stomach turned. Payoffs? I whispered. He turned to me then, his eyes boring into mine, and for the first time I saw something beneath his fury. Pain. Years and years of it hardened into steel. Ask him how much your birthday parties cost him, because every balloon, every cake, every present was bought with blood money. Money he paid me to disappear. The words knocked the air out of my chest. Daniel exploded. That's a lie, he shouted, though his voice cracked, betraying his own doubt. Aaron slammed a folded stack of bank statements on the table. Look for yourself. Regular deposits, all traced back to your father. You think I wanted his money? I wanted him. But since he wouldn't give me that, he paid me to stay away. Paid me to keep the truth buried. My eyes darted to Dad. His face said it all. The sagging shoulders, the trembling lips, the shame carved into every wrinkle. Claire snatched the papers with shaking hands, flipping through them. Her breath hitched. Oh my God, it's real. She shoved them at me like she couldn't bear to hold them. The numbers stared up at me, undeniable. Transfers, dates, thousands of dollars. Why? My voice broke, raw and desperate. Why would you do that? Why would you rather throw money at him than just be his father? Dad's mouth opened, but no words came. Only silence. Aaron laughed bitterly, though his voice cracked like glass. Because he didn't want me. I was a mistake, a shadow he wanted gone, and money was easier than love. Mom stepped forward suddenly, tears streaming down her face. That's not true. You don't know everything. Aaron's glare snapped to her, then enlightened me.
Her lip trembled. She looked at Dad, silently begging him to intervene. He didn't. He just stood there, hollow, broken. So she spoke. Your mother, her voice wavered, she didn't want you near him. She threatened to ruin his life if he didn't stay away. The money, it wasn't to buy you off. It was child support, disguised, so she wouldn't drag all of us into court. We thought it was the only way to keep peace. Aaron shook his head violently. No, don't you dare twist this. He could have fought for me. He could have been there. He chose not to. Her tears fell harder now. You don't understand what she was capable of. Aaron's voice dropped to a whisper, chilling and sharp. I understand that he left me to face it alone. The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice trembling. So, what now? What do you want from us? Aaron's eyes flicked over each of us before locking back on Dad. His expression hardened, the fury solidifying into something darker. What I want, he said slowly, is for everyone to know the truth, to see him for what he really is. Not the devoted father, not the perfect husband, a coward who abandoned his son and paid him off like garbage. He leaned closer, his voice low and final. I'm going to make sure this family name burns. Every secret, every lie, you won't be able to hide anymore. Dad flinched, like the words were physical blows. Mom's sobs filled the silence, and me, my chest tightened with a single terrifying thought. Aaron didn't just want revenge on Dad, he wanted to destroy us all. Aaron's declaration was like a fuse catching flame. The room buzzed with panic. Claire pacing, muttering under her breath, Daniel running both hands through his hair like he could tear out the confusion. Mom was openly sobbing now, shoulders shaking, clutching her robe like it might hold her together. And Dad? Dad just sat down, finally, collapsing into his chair as if his body had given up. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself, didn't even tell Aaron he was wrong. He just stared at the table, hollow. Aaron didn't let up. His eyes burned, fixed on Dad. You ruined my life. You left me with nothing. Now I'm going to take everything you love and leave you with nothing. Claire spun on him, fire in her voice. That's not fair. We didn't even know you existed. Why should we pay for his mistakes? His head whipped toward her. For a second, I thought he'd snap. But then his expression shifted, just slightly. The fury cracked and something raw, vulnerable, bled through. Because you got the life I should have had. His voice wavered. Every smile, every hug, every I'm proud of you, that was mine too. But I never got it. And you got it all. Her arms dropped to her sides. For once, Claire didn't have a comeback. Daniel stepped closer, his voice quieter now, trying to reason with him. Look, you're right. You were wronged. None of this should have happened. But burning everything down, how does that fix it? How does that make you whole? Aaron's jaw tightened. You think I want to be whole? I've lived broken for 25 years. I don't need fixing. I need him to suffer. My heart twisted. I looked at him, at the pain etched deep in his face, and for the first time, I felt it. Not just the anger, but the unbearable grief. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted recognition, to be seen, to be acknowledged as more than a mistake shoved into the shadows. I swallowed hard. Aaron, what if we don't let him define it anymore? He turned his sharp gaze on me, suspicious. What's that supposed to mean? I forced myself to keep my voice steady. You say you lost everything, but maybe it's not too late to build something else. With us. With your brother and sisters who should have known you all along. He froze. The anger didn't vanish, but I saw his throat bob, his eyes flicker. For just a moment, the armor slipped. Mom jumped in, desperate. Yes, please don't destroy this family, Aaron. Be part of it. We'll make it right, I swear. Shut up. His snarl cut her off like a blade. The tension snapped tight again. His fists clenched at his sides, and I could see him trembling, not just from fury, but from indecision. That's when Dad finally raised his head. His voice was broken, but clear. If you want someone to hate, hate me, not them. This is my fault. All of it. Aaron glared at him, chest heaving. Dad's eyes shimmered. I can't take back what I did. I can't change what you went through. But if destroying me gives you peace, then do it. Expose me. Tell the world. I won't fight it.
The room went silent, the weight of his words suffocating. Aaron's breath caught, like he hadn't expected that answer. His hands shook harder, his eyes wet now, furious at themselves for betraying him. He whispered, barely audible, "You don't get to give me permission." And then, before anyone could move, he turned on his heel and stormed toward the door. "Where are you going?" Claire demanded. Aaron didn't look back. To make sure everyone knows what kind of man he really is. The door slammed so hard the walls shook, and we were left in the wreckage, knowing the real explosion hadn't even begun. The sound of the door slamming echoed long after Aaron was gone. For a moment, none of us moved. It felt like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for someone to speak. Finally, Claire wettered, "Well, that's it. We're finished." Her voice was hollow, not her usual sharp edge, just resignation. Daniel turned to Dad, fury etched into every line of his face. You let this happen. You lied to us. You abandoned him. And now he's going to burn everything down, and it's your fault. Dad didn't respond. He just sat there, shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the papers Aaron had left scattered across the table. His silence was unbearable. Mom tried to speak, her voice trembling. We have to stop him. We have to. We? Claire spun on her, eyes blazing. No, don't lump us into this. You knew, Mom. All these years, you knew. You chose to keep his secret. Mom's tears spilled over. I thought I was protecting all of you. Protecting us from what? Claire snapped. From knowing the truth? From having a brother? I couldn't take it anymore. I pushed back my chair, my body shaking. He's going public. If he goes to the press or social media or whoever he has lined up, we won't just lose Dad's reputation, we'll lose ours. Everything we thought we were, gone. Daniel swore under his breath, pacing. So what do we do? Do we track him down? Do we beg him not to? Begging won't work, Claire said flatly. Didn't you hear him? He doesn't want reconciliation. He wants revenge. The room felt like it was closing in. I pressed my palms to my temples, trying to think. Aaron had proof. Documents, bank records, custody filings. If he really leaked it all, my father's career, his standing in the community, our family name, it would be shredded. And I hated myself for it, but part of me feared the fallout for us more than for him, because we'd done nothing, yet we'd lose everything too. I turned to Dad, desperate. Say something, do something. How do we stop this? Finally, he looked up. His face was gray, his voice quiet. We don't. What? Daniel snapped. His hands trembled as he folded one of the papers, smoothing it like he could erase the truth with his fingertips. I failed him. I failed all of you. If this comes out, then maybe it's what I deserve. My stomach dropped. You can't just give up. Watch me, he said bitterly. That broke something in me. All my life, my father had been the one who fixed things, the one who kept us steady. And now, when everything was shattering, he was surrendering. Claire let out a harsh laugh. So that's it. You let him ruin us and you just sit there like a coward? Enough. Mom's voice cracked through the air, sharp despite her tears. This isn't helping. She turned to Dad. We can stop this. We can talk to him, explain. But Dad shook his head. He doesn't want explanations. He wants blood. And that was when my phone buzzed. I pulled it from my pocket, hands clammy. A text from an unknown number. Just 4 words. They deserve the truth. Attached was a photo. My father, years younger, standing with a woman I didn't recognize. And in his arms, a little boy. Aaron. The proof was already in motion. My hands went cold. He's already started. Everyone froze. Claire rushed over to look. Daniel leaned over my shoulder, cursing under his breath. Mom clasped her hands over her mouth. Dad just closed his eyes, like he'd been waiting for this moment all along. And then my phone buzzed again. This time, the message was longer. By tomorrow, everyone will know who he really is, and when they do, you'll finally understand what it feels like to lose everything. My grip tightened on the phone, my pulse racing. Tomorrow. We had less than 24 hours before the secret that had just exploded inside these walls would explode outside them too. I didn't sleep that night either. None of us did. Every creak of the house, every vibration of my phone on the nightstand made my heart jump. I kept staring at the screen, waiting for Aaron's next move, half expecting the photo he'd sent to already be plastered across the internet. By morning, the house was suffocating. Mom was in the kitchen, chain drinking coffee, her hands trembling so much the cup rattled against the saucer. Daniel paced like a caged animal, muttering about finding Aaron before he could hit post. Claire sat on the couch, scrolling her phone obsessively, refreshing feeds like she could catch the bomb before it dropped. Dad was nowhere. I found him in the garage, sitting on the old workbench, staring at a box of tools like they might offer answers. He didn't even notice me at first. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red, his face hollow. "Morning," he said, but it wasn't a greeting, more like a man acknowledging another witness to his downfall. "Do you even care?" I snapped, the exhaustion and panic boiling over. "He's going to destroy everything, and you're just sitting here?" He flinched, but his voice was flat. "What do you want me to do? Fight him? Deny it? I can't. It's all true." I hated him for that, for giving up, for accepting ruin like it was inevitable. Before I could answer, Claire's scream echoed from the living room. I bolted inside. She was standing, phone in hand, her face ashen. "It's out." Daniel snatched the phone from her. His eyes scanned the screen, then widened in horror. "Oh my God!" Mom stumbled forward. "What is it?" Daniel turned the screen so we could all see. My stomach dropped. Aaron had posted. Not just one photo, an entire thread. Pictures of him as a child, bruises on his arms and face, old court documents with Dad's name printed in bold, screenshots of the bank transfers, and finally, the picture he'd sent me last night. Dad smiling, holding him as a baby. The caption read, "This is the man who abandoned me, who bought a new family while I suffered. Everyone deserves to know who he really is." The post was already exploding. Thousands of shares, hundreds of comments, some demanding answers, some spewing rage, others digging into our family like vultures. Claire's voice cracked. "We're ruined." Mom collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. Daniel cursed, pacing faster than ever. And Dad? Dad just stood there, watching his life crumble on a screen. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Then the landline rang. Loud, shrill. It cut through the silence like a siren. Mom jumped up, fumbling for the receiver. "Hello?" Her face drained as she listened. "Yes, no comment. Please, no." She slammed the phone down, trembling. Reporters. The line rang again instantly. Then Mom's cell buzzed with messages. Then Daniel's phone lit up with messages. It had begun. By noon, news vans were parked at the end of our street. Neighbors gathered on their lawns, whispering. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Texts from friends, coworkers, numbers I didn't recognize. The walls of our home felt thinner with every knock at the door, every flash of a camera through the blinds. Aaron hadn't just exposed Dad. He'd put a spotlight on all of us. And the worst part? He wasn't finished. Because at 2:17 p.m., I got another text from that same unknown number. "This is just part 1. The text burned into my eyes. "This is just part 1. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. Part 1? What else could there be? He'd already gutted my father in public, already thrown our entire family into the fire. What more was left? Claire ripped the phone from my hand, reading it aloud, her face twisted. Jesus Christ, he's not done. Mom staggered back against the wall, whispering, "No, no, he can't. It's enough already." Daniel slammed his fist against the doorframe so hard the wood cracked. "We have to find him, right now, before he drops whatever part 2 is." But none of us knew where Aaron had gone. Dad finally spoke, his voice a rasp. "Leave it. Let him do what he's going to do." That broke me. "Are you insane?" I shouted. "He's not just coming for you anymore. He's coming for all of us. Don't you get it? He doesn't care if we knew or not. He's dragging us all down with you." Dad's shoulders sagged. He didn't argue, didn't fight. He just looked like a man already buried. By evening, the house was surrounded. News vans lined the street, reporters knocking, shouting questions through bullhorns. "Is it true you abandoned your son? What do your other children think about this? Do you have a statement?" Mom locked the doors, pulled the blinds shut, but it didn't stop the noise. We huddled in the living room like cornered animals. My phone buzzed non-stop, friends sending screenshots, coworkers asking if it was true, strangers flooding my social media with comments like knives. Claire sat in the corner, her face buried in her hands. "They're digging through everything, old photos, school records, anything connected to us. We're all screwed." Daniel stalked back and forth, muttering curses. "If I get my hands on him." And then, at 8:03 p.m., the next bomb dropped. Claire's phone lit up first, then mine, then Daniel's. Notifications flooded in, each one worse than the last. Aaron had posted again. This time, it wasn't just about Dad. It was about Mom. Screenshots of old emails. Her emails. Conversations with Aaron's mother. Cold, calculated words where she begged Aaron's mom to keep him away. Payments arranged under the table, promises that if Aaron disappeared, our family would never have to know. The internet exploded all over again. Mom collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, clutching her stomach like she'd been shot. "I was trying to protect you. I was trying to protect this family." But none of us looked at her, because we couldn't. Daniel's face went red with rage. "You were part of it. You both were." Claire whispered, broken, "All those times you told us honesty was everything?" And me, I just felt sick. My parents, the people who had raised me, who had drilled into me the importance of loyalty, family, truth, they had built everything on lies. And now those lies were devouring us alive. The phones rang, reporters banged on the windows, neighbors whispered outside. And then another text buzzed on my phone. From Aaron. "Tomorrow, part 3, then everyone will know the whole truth." I stared at the words until they blurred, my breath catching in my throat. If this was only part 2, what could part 3 possibly be? By the time morning came, the house felt less like a home and more like a prison. Reporters still camped outside, their cameras flashing at every movement behind the curtains. The phones never stopped ringing. Social media was a battlefield, our family name trending with words like coward, liar, abuser. But none of it compared to the dread in my chest. Part 3. I barely touched breakfast. None of us did. Claire chain-smoked on the porch until reporters got too close and Mom dragged her back inside. Daniel barricaded himself in his room, slamming the door, punching the walls when he thought no one was listening. Dad hadn't shaved, hadn't slept. He sat in his chair like a man waiting for execution. And Mom? She was a ghost, pale, shaking, flinching every time her phone buzzed. At 11:42 p.m., it came. Another post, another bomb. This time, it wasn't documents or emails, it was video. I froze as it played on my phone, a shaky recording, maybe from years ago. A boy's voice, Aaron's, young, maybe 10. crying, begging. Why doesn't he want me? Why does he get new kids but not me? Then another voice, a woman's, his mother. Drunk, slurring, venom dripping. Because you were a mistake. He paid me to keep you away. He never wanted you. You're nothing to him. The recording ended with a slam, a child's scream, the sound of glass shattering. My stomach lurched. The caption cut like a blade. This is what your beloved father left me with. This is what his silence bought me. Still think he's a good man? Within minutes, it went viral. Thousands of comments, people outraged, horrified, demanding justice. Some calling for Dad's arrest, others calling for our entire family to be exposed. Claire slammed her phone down, her face streaked with tears. He's not just ruining Dad, he's painting all of us as monsters. Daniel stormed into the living room, eyes wild. We have to shut him down, legally. Hack his account, get a lawyer, something, anything. Mom whispered, barely audible, "He's telling the truth." We all stared at her. Her hands trembled as she pressed them to her mouth. Not the details, but the pain. That's real. We did this. We let this happen. No! Daniel's voice was sharp, desperate. He did this. Dad, not us. But I wasn't so sure anymore. Because the truth was spreading faster than we could stop it. And in the eyes of the world, we weren't just victims of Dad's lies. We were accomplices, the perfect family built on betrayal. And then, at 3 p.m., I got another message. Direct. Not posted publicly this time. Just to me. Meet me tonight. Alone. If you want to know everything. If you want to know why I'm really doing this. An address followed. A rundown cafe on the edge of town. My heart pounded. He wasn't finished. Not even close. And for reasons I couldn't explain, I knew I had to go. Because Aaron wasn't just out for revenge. He was holding on to a secret darker than anything he'd shared yet. I didn't tell anyone. Not Mom, not Claire, not Daniel, and definitely not Dad. Something in Aaron's message, it felt like it was meant for me alone, a final piece of the puzzle he didn't trust anyone else with. My hands shook as I typed out a quick lie to my siblings about going for a drive, just to clear my head. Claire rolled her eyes. Daniel muttered that I was being reckless, but no one stopped me. They were too consumed by their own anger to notice. The cafe sat on the edge of town, the kind of place where paint peeled off the walls and the neon "open" sign flickered like it couldn't decide if it meant it. The parking lot was nearly empty. I killed the engine, sat there gripping the steering wheel until my palms hurt. Then, I saw him. Aaron, sitting in the far corner by the window, hood pulled up, a coffee cup untouched in front of him. His eyes locked onto mine through the glass, and even from here, I felt the weight of that stare. I went inside. The bell over the door jingled, and the smell of burnt coffee and grease hit me. My footsteps echoed in the silence. Aaron didn't stand. He just gestured to the seat across from him. I sat. My throat was dry. Why me? He smirked faintly. Because you're the only one who actually listens. I swallowed hard. What do you want from me? He leaned forward, lowering his hood. His face was tired, shadows under his eyes, but his gaze burned. I want you to know the truth before it hits the world, because when it does, nothing will ever be the same. My stomach nodded. What truth? You've already destroyed Dad, Mom, everyone. What else is there? Aaron's lips curled in something that wasn't quite a smile. You still think this is just about being abandoned? About money? It's bigger than that. His voice dropped, cold and sharp. Do you know why Dad really left? Why Mom wanted me gone? Why they paid to keep me silent? My pulse quickened. Because you were from his first marriage? He shook his head slowly, eyes glinting. No, that's the lie. They fed you. The cafe seemed to shrink around us, every sound fading, until it was just his voice. The truth is, your father didn't just abandon me. He hurt me, and your mother knew. She covered for him. That's why they paid, not out of guilt, out of fear. My chest tightened like a vice. You're lying. Aaron's eyes didn't waver. Am I? Think about it. Why would a man fight in court for the right to walk away from his child completely? Why would your mom send emails begging my mother to keep me away at any cost? Why would they pay me off for years just to stay quiet? Images flashed through my mind, the bruises in his photos, the recordings of his mother's drunken voice, Dad's refusal to fight back, Mom's silence. No, no, that can't be true. Aaron leaned back, his expression unreadable. Believe what you want, but tonight the world finds out everything, and when it does, you'll have to decide, whose side are you on? My stomach twisted so violently, I thought I'd be sick. He stood, propped a folded piece of paper onto the table, and walked out. I stared at it with trembling hands before finally unfolding it. A court record, one I hadn't seen before. Dad's name, allegations, words that made my blood run cold. Abuse, neglect, endangerment. I couldn't breathe. My father wasn't just a liar. He was a monster. And Aaron wasn't done. I sat there, staring at the paper, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The words blurred as my hands shook. Abuse, neglect, endangerment. Each one was like a nail hammered into the coffin of the man I thought I knew. I shoved the paper into my jacket and stumbled out of the cafe. The cold air slapped me in the face, but it didn't clear my head. My father wasn't just guilty of lies. If Aaron was telling the truth, he was guilty of something far worse. The drive home was a blur. I don't even remember the turns, just the streetlights streaking by as my mind spun. By the time I pulled into the driveway, reporters were still out front, their cameras snapping as I sprinted past them into the house. Inside, the atmosphere was worse than ever. Mom sat on the couch with a bottle of wine half empty beside her, mascara smeared down her cheeks. Daniel was pacing, his fists raw from punching walls. Claire had her laptop open, scrolling through news articles, her face pale and tight. Dad was in his chair, staring at nothing. I dropped the paper on the coffee table. The sound snapped everyone's attention to me. Read it. My voice cracked, but the anger underneath held it steady. Claire leaned forward, scanning it. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. Daniel snatched it next, his jaw tightening as he read. Tell me this isn't real, he demanded, thrusting it toward Dad. Dad didn't move, didn't even blink. Dad! Daniel roared. Say something. Finally, Dad looked up. His face was gray, hollow. His lips trembled.
And then he whispered, "It was never supposed to come out." The room fell silent. Mom's breath hitched. She buried her face in her hands. Claire's voice broke. "So, it's true? You hurt him?" Dad's eyes glistened, but he didn't deny it. "I was angry, broken. I made mistakes, but I never wanted to." "Mistakes?" Daniel's voice shook with fury. "You call abusing your kid a mistake?" Mom sobbed harder, rocking back and forth. "We were trying to protect all of you. If it got out, everything would have been destroyed. I thought—" "You thought hiding it was better?" I cut her off, my voice shaking. "You thought burying it would make it go away? You let him suffer alone so we could live this lie?" Claire slammed her laptop shut. "No wonder Aaron wants to burn it all down. I want to burn it down too." Dad pushed forward, his voice trembling. "I regret it every day, every single day of my life." But I couldn't hear him anymore. I couldn't hear anything past the roaring in my ears. Because Aaron was right. This wasn't just about abandonment. This wasn't about money. This was about a father who had destroyed his first child and a mother who had helped him cover it up.
The phone rang again. The sound made us all jump. Mom reached for it with trembling hands, but I snatched it first. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello?" Aaron's voice, calm and steady, came through the line. "Now you know." I gripped the phone tighter. "Why tell me? Why not just post it all at once?" "Because," he said, "I wanted you to hear it first. I wanted you to see who your father really is before the rest of the world does tonight." My chest tightened. "Tonight?" "Yes." His voice was final. "At midnight, I release everything. The documents, the records, the truth. By morning, he won't just be ruined, he'll be finished." The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly, my hand trembling. Midnight. We had less than 4 hours before the entire world knew the darkest truth of all. The clock ticked louder than it ever had in my life. Every second between that phone call and midnight felt like it was hammering us closer to destruction. No one spoke, not really. We sat in the living room, the TV on mute, the blinds drawn tight, each of us caught in our own storm of thoughts. Mom drank. Claire smoked in silence, ignoring the glares. Daniel paced until I thought the floorboards would split. Dad just stared into nothing, his eyes glassy, like he was already gone. Finally, Claire broke. "We can't just sit here and wait to be annihilated. There has to be something we can do." Daniel spun on her. "Like what? Bribe him again? That's what got us here in the first place." "Not bribe, but maybe talk to him. Really talk to him." Mom scoffed bitterly, her voice hoarse from crying. "You think he'll listen now? He's waited his whole life for this moment." I clenched my fists. Then maybe that's why we have to try. All eyes turned to me. He gave me a chance earlier, at the cafe. He told me the truth before it goes public. Daniel's face twisted. "You met him alone?" Clara's eyes narrowed. "And you didn't tell us?" "I couldn't. You would have tried to stop me, and I needed to hear it. From him. Not just from you, not just from Dad, from Aaron." Silence. Heavy, suffocating. Finally, Dad spoke, his voice so soft we almost missed it. "Did he hate me?" The question cut me open. "Yes," I whispered. "But more than that, he hurt. Still hurts. He wanted answers, and when he didn't get them, he turned that hurt into fire. Dad bowed his head. Claire exhaled sharply. So? Do we just wait for him to light the match? I looked at each of them. No. We go to him, together. If he's going to destroy us, at least we face him first. Maybe, just maybe we can change his mind. Daniel muttered a curse under his breath, but he didn't argue. Mom just stared at her lap, trembling. And Dad nodded once, slow, resigned. Then we go. At 10:15 p.m., we piled into the car. The drive was silent, tension thick enough to choke on. My father sat in the passenger seat, Mom in the back between Daniel and Claire. Nobody spoke, nobody dared. The address Aaron had given me earlier still burned in my mind. The cafe. When we pulled up, it looked different at night. Darker, emptier. A lone street lamp casting shadows across the cracked pavement. Aaron was there, standing by the window this time, arms crossed, hood down, waiting. When he saw us step out of the car, his face didn't change. No surprise, no anger, just expectation. He didn't move as we approached, not until we stood a few feet away. Then his gaze locked on Dad, hard as steel. "You brought the whole family," he said flatly. Dad's voice cracked. "I couldn't let this end without facing you." Aaron tilted his head, studying him like he was an insect under glass. Facing me or begging me? Mom stepped forward quickly, tears already streaking her face. "Aaron, please. We were wrong. I was wrong. We should have fought for you. We should have been there."
Aaron's jaw tightened, his voice trembling with fury. Too late. Claire spoke next, sharp but trembling. "You want revenge? Fine. But don't take us all down for his sins. Don't make us pay for what we didn't even know about." Aaron's gaze flicked to her, then to me, then to Daniel. For just a moment, his eyes softened. Just a flicker. Then he looked back at Dad. "Tell them," he said, his voice like ice. "Tell them what you did. Out loud. Right here." Dad froze. His lips parted, closed. His chest heaved. Aaron stepped closer, his voice rising. "Say it. Admit it. Or I swear I'll release everything at midnight and let the world do it for you." The silence was unbearable. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it might break through my ribs. And then, finally, Dad spoke. I heard him. His voice shook, but it was clear. "I hurt my son, and I will regret it until the day I die." Aaron's face twisted, fury and grief colliding. His fists clenched at his sides, his whole body trembling. The clock on my phone read 11:48. 12 minutes until midnight. Aaron's decision hung in the air. Would he burn us, or would he finally let go? Aaron's breath came in ragged bursts, his chest heaving as though the words he had dragged from Dad weren't enough. His eyes glistened, but his jaws stayed locked, rage and grief warring inside him. Mom reached for him, her hand trembling. "Aaron, please. He said it. He admitted it. Don't destroy yourself along with us. Don't let this pain consume your whole life." Aaron jerked back like her touch burned. "You don't get to ask me for mercy, not after what you did." His voice cracked. "You kept me hidden. You let me believe I was worthless." Claire's voice broke in, sharp but trembling. "You're not worthless. You never were. Look at us. We're standing here. We're your blood too. We should have been your family from the start. Let us be that now." Aaron's eyes flicked to her, then to Daniel, then to me. His face softened for half a second before the steel slammed back into place. You think words fix 25 years of hell? You think standing here makes up for every birthday I spent alone, every night I prayed he'd show up? Daniel finally exploded. No, it doesn't fix it. Nothing ever will. But if you torch us all, then what do you get? More pain, more loneliness. You've lived with that long enough. Don't chain yourself to it forever. Aaron's fists shook, his lips trembled. The silence stretched. 11:56 p.m. My throat was tight, but I forced myself to speak. Aaron, you're right. Dad failed you. Mom failed you. And we, your siblings, we failed you too, even if we didn't know. But please, don't let his sins decide who you are. Don't let him keep defining you by his mistakes. Aaron's gaze landed on me. His eyes shimmered with tears he fought to hide. 11:59. He pulled out his phone. My breath caught as his thumb hovered over the screen. Dad whispered, broken, "If destroying me gives you peace, then do it." Aaron's hand shook. His eyes bore into Dad's one last time. Then slowly, he lowered the phone. His voice cracked. You don't get peace that easy. Living with what you did, that's your punishment. 12 o'clock, midnight. But no post appeared, no explosion online. Aaron slipped his phone back into his pocket. His eyes lingered on us, on me, on Claire, on Daniel, with a mixture of bitterness and something else, something almost like longing. Then he turned, stepping back into the shadows. You'll see me again. But not tonight. And just like that, he was gone. The four of us stood frozen, the cold air biting, the weight of everything pressing down. Dad sank to his knees, sobbing for the first time in my life. Mom crouched beside him, but he pushed her away. Claire lit another cigarette with shaking hands. Daniel punched the hood of the car, tears running down his face. And me? I just stood there, staring into the darkness where Aaron had disappeared, my chest hollow. The secret was out now. Between us, maybe it would never reach the world. Maybe it still would. But nothing could erase what I had heard, what I had seen. That night changed everything. It shattered the image of who my parents were. It rewrote the story of our family forever. I lost the father I thought I knew. I gained a brother I may never truly have. And I learned that sometimes survival means living with truths too heavy to carry, yet too dangerous to bury. That was the night the secret exploded. And it was the day I stopped recognizing who I was.